Welcome to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters. Get ready to create magic and miracles as you lean into your heart's desires. I believe not only does the heart want what it wants, but it knows. This show is a weekly deep dive into what it means to live from an awakened heart. I'll be sharing inspiring stories and real conversations with people just like you, who have turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. My mission is to show you how you too can be connected and heart-centered in every area of your life. Your journey to aligning with more love, more joy, and your wildest dreams come true starts now. Welcome to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters. And today we have with us Luna Rukmini Devi, who is an internationally recognized sound healer, meditation instructor, and energy healer based in Los Angeles. Sound. We've all used it as a form of therapy, whether it's to relax after a hectic workday, to groove to during your morning run, or you just get really lost in it when you're dancing, listening to your favorite song. And it's always served as a form of expression. Now it's becoming a new phenomenon as people are using the vibration of their voices and objects to ease discomfort. Healing with sound has actually been around a really long time, and it's believed to date back to ancient Greece, when music was used in an attempt to cure mental disorders. Throughout history, music has been used to boost morale in military troops, help people work faster and more productively, and even ward off evil spirits by chanting. And it's still done in a lot of indigenous ceremonies and practices. Now, the first time that I really experienced being awash in the therapeutic benefits of sound, I was in Tulum. I was staying at the Nomad Resort, which is a pretty amazing place to begin with. Like, I've never felt so zen as I was in Tulum at the Nomad. And they had this gratitude tent where you can go and do all kinds of different classes and ceremonies. I did a Kundalini circle with women. We did cacao ceremonies. And one of the things that I participated in was a sound healing. So we all laid down in the tent and we spent the next hour and a half being awash in all these amazing different sounds, like from singing bowls to a rattle to feathers. And when I left that place, I literally floated out of there. There are so many amazing healing things that sound does for you, not just on a auditory level, but literally on a cellular level. And you're going to hear about it in this episode. Now, a little bit more about Luna, who was born and raised in Santiago, Chile, where she pursued a BA in industrial design and then moved to Los Angeles and had a career in marketing and advertising. And she worked in some of the most renowned advertising companies in the world. After many years in the corporate environment and experiencing burnout and battling health issues, she decided to make a significant change in her lifestyle and utterly shifted her path to partake in a full-time career as a healer and entrepreneur in the meditation, wellness, and healing business. In 2018, she was given the name of Luna, which means moon in Spanish, which represents her strong connection with the moon, as well as her desire to always shine a light among those who are experiencing moments of darkness. As a native South American who has traveled the world, Luna adds a touch of different cultures to her healing techniques, making each session different and unique. Her own journey of self-discovery, transformation, conscious uncoupling, and breakthroughs is what inspires her to compassionately guide others to authentically live from the heart and become their best version and true self. Hello, Luna. Welcome to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you on with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be connected with you again and to be, getting this time together. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. As I mentioned in the intro, I met Luna a couple years ago. My friend and I used to live in Marina del Rey, and she and I were taking a beach walk. It was kind of overcast, and we get to the Venice area and we see this whole setup. Like, we see these like white pillows and blankets and all these gongs and all these singing bowls, and we're like, oh my gosh, let's go at least see what's happening, and maybe they can let us know when they might be having an event sometime. So we walked over there, and here's Luna, and her husband was there, and one of your other, I think it was somebody that was from Chile or something, somebody else was there, a man.
Right. He's a shaman that was
The
visiting
shaman.
from Chile. Yeah.
Yeah, so not only Luna was there, but a shaman was there. And I think it was actually your first public event that you were having, and
Correct.
spoke with you, and you invited us to participate. And so Tina and I sat down, and you gave us some blankets to use, and we had this most amazing sound bath on the beach and out in nature. We had the shaman doing his thing. We had your beautiful sounds, and we were just enmeshed and immersed in these beautiful sounds. And since then, I've followed your work. I've
Mm.
gone to ceremony meditation where you've done some sound healing there, sound baths. And we can go more into, for some of you that don't know anything about sound baths, what they are and how beneficial they are to you. And also with Leandra Rose, you've done breath work and sound baths together in some classes. So she was our third guest, my third episode, and we talked about her amazing journey. And I know you two are friends and you collaborate together as well, and you have kind of a little bit of a similar story. Well, now the details aren't the same, but your awakening and how you listen to your inner voice and literally changed your whole life to a more heart-centered way of living after that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love that you brought up that story about how we met at the beach because I literally just finished a sound bath at the beach right now that I started
Mhm.
hosting about 3 weeks ago, with the pandemic and all that. Like people have been wanting to gather. And so I decided to start doing things outdoors. And it's actually really cool to look back at that time when we met. I think it was 2 or maybe 3 years ago. I
Yeah.
don't remember actually, but it's really beautiful for me to remember that time because you're right. That was my first sound bath at the beach, and this shaman friend who is also my teacher was visiting, and he really helped me. He's helped me throughout my journey in many ways. So I look back at that time and I compare to what I'm doing now today, and it's completely different. So it's such a beautiful journey that we're all in together, and it's just really beautiful to acknowledge that. So thank you for bringing that
You're
story
welcome.
into this.
You're welcome.
And yeah, with Leandra, so Leandra and I actually met at Ceremony Meditation, one of the studios in Venice that where I used to teach, and it was actually really cool the way we met because I had been called into the studio to do a test sound bath for the owner, and to see, they wanted to hire me, but they wanted to see what the sound bath was like and all that. And Leandra had just finished her class,
Mm.
so Travis, the owner, asked her if she wanted to stay for my sound bath, and she did, and she loved it, and that's how we met. She experienced my first sound bath, my first test sound bath there at Ceremony, and that's when I think it was actually Travis himself who recommended that we should both connect and start practicing sound and breath together. And we came together, we really bonded like right away. We became like sisters, and
Mm.
we started doing, it used to be called the sacred cocoon. And it
Mm.
was literally this like cocoon, this container of sacredness that we were creating, where people would come and share and release, and through breath work they would go into a very deep state of mind, and they would do a lot of release as well, and then the sound would help them calm and feel really, it was really great and beautiful for everyone. So we did that for a few months together, and it went really well. It would sell out every month, and then for many reasons we decided not to continue with that. But we've experienced a lot of things together. We've been to India together, and we're really close friends, and we love each other. We learn from each other, and we teach each other too. So I'm so happy that you got to talk to her in this podcast as well.
Yes, yes. And I wonder if I was there for that first collaboration. I believe I was, because I did the whole, I think they had like 21 days of unlimited meditation and
Mhm.
classes there. And my friend and I totally immersed ourselves in it. Like I'd probably go to, I don't know, 12 classes a week or something like that. And yeah, the sound baths are just amazing. And of course, Leandro, that's how I connected with her, was at Ceremony. And I've done many breathwork sessions before, but she just has this amazing energy about herself and this beautiful like purple aura. I saw, like, she felt like she was right next to me and she was across the room. And you two
Mm.
have very similar energies. And I think it's so wonderful that you guys became friends. I can see why, and hence the collaborations. And for anybody that is in California listening, there is a great the studio, it's ceremony.
No, they moved from Rose about, I don't know, like I want to say maybe like 6 months ago to Mar Vista.
Oh,
But now during the pandemic, they decided to close. So
oh,
the physical studio doesn't exist anymore, but I think they're going virtual, like many of us are, and they're
mhm.
doing, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's something like a healing school or something like that.
Okay.
Online, yeah.
Well, it's good to know because I was going to lead our California listeners to that studio, but now you can go to that online.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are going like independent now, like studios
Mm-hmm.
are no longer, some studios are still staying in business, but a lot of them have either closed or changed their business model. So they're no longer studios, they're like co-ops or things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
So,
I get it. I mean, I understand because having lived in California for so long, I don't know if this is one of the reasons for it. Of course, the COVID pandemic, things are going to be done a lot differently. I
mm,
still hope there is our gatherings because I believe the people's energy is what contributes to a lot of times what we are actually getting out of the classes. But California, everywhere in Los Angeles, Southern California, especially like the beach cities, have gotten so expensive. And a lot of these amazing studios are getting pushed off because the rents are becoming so high end and they can't afford to be there anymore. So
hmm,
all the mom and pops are gone. So everyone's
yes.
reinventing themselves, therefore. You know what? You have such an interesting background. And, you were Maria before, and now you're Luna. And there's such a really cool story that led up to that. I mean, you from your childhood to working in the corporate world to getting the inner nudge to change directions and do something that was more in line with your heart. If you can take us back a little bit and give us a little bit of your background and what led you to where you are right now.
Sure. So one thing that I like to say before I talk about my background is that I am all about having your heart lead the way you live your life. And with that being said, I am an anti-conditioning person. So that's why there's been so many changes in my life, because I believe that when we're born, we're sent into this world with a purpose, and we land in a family or in a country or in a society that creates a lot of rules and expectations and things like walls, boundaries, that ultimately they're good and they have a purpose as well, but a lot of them also take us from our own purpose and we become someone that we're not. And so ideally, sooner rather than later, people realize that they've been playing a role in their life that is not necessarily the role of their hearts. And so when that happened to me, that's when I started kind of shedding, and letting go of a lot of these things that had come into my life based on other people's expectations and not necessarily my own. And so with that, I'll start with my name. When I was born, I was given the name of Maria. It's actually a two name. It's Maria Jose, which is very common in South America. It's very common to have two names. It's funny because now that I look back, I remember that I went through a lot of things about my name. When I was in sixth grade, like people used to call me one thing, and then in sixth grade, I decided to change it to another nickname, and I told everyone to call me another in a different way. So I guess I never really identified myself with that name. And then when I moved I lived in New Zealand for about 3 years before here. And same thing, like people would pronounce my name differently or they would call me differently. So I never really identified with that. And then I moved to the US and I had like Latino friends that would call me one way, and then American friends would call me differently. So it's always been kind of like an issue in a way that I hadn't even acknowledged. And I think it was about 2 years ago, actually, that I received the name Luna. And I greatly incorporated it or untook it because I've always had a really powerful connection with the moon ever since I was a little girl. When I was 14, I wrote her a poem, and I've always had something with the moon. So when I was starting to go public with my practice of sound healing, I had a friend help me come up with a name for my business, for my practice, and I wanted to combine an English and a Spanish word because I feel like I represent both worlds in a way. And so a friend of mine came up with the name Mindful Luna. So Mindful Luna was originally just the name of my practice, but I never intended for it to be my own name or anything like that. So people started calling me Luna because they started thinking that I was Mindful Luna, even though my name was Maria. And so that's how I started really liking this Luna, and I really felt connected to it. And I felt that the word Luna, which means moon in Spanish, really represented everything that I wanted to do with my life at that time. I wanted to bring light to people. I was all about spreading light and being white and purity and like basically shining among the darkness that was around there. That's a big part of my purpose. And so I really embraced that. It took me a while to kind of receive it and accept it, but then people just kept calling me that, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go by Luna. And last year, when I was in India, I go to India every year, as you know, and last year I had the opportunity to meet a very spiritual man. He's a sadhu, a baba. He's like a living saint that lives in the jungle, and he's a very, very special man. And a group of us Westerners spent some time with him. There's a big group of people from different countries that follow the teachings of Baba Ram Dass, who was a very influential spiritual leader here from the US. And so this guy, it's a long story, but this guy is connected to a lot of that community, or to that community. And so a group of us went to visit him, and he has given spiritual names to many Westerners. And that's how I received my full name, which is Luna Rukmini Devi. And Rukmini is the wife of Krishna, was the first wife that Lord Krishna had. In Hinduism, Krishna is one of the main gods. So he married Rukmini, and it also represents or means adorned with gold. And the word Devi means goddess. And so that's basically the three meanings of my name. It's Luna, like the moon, then Rukmini, it's adorned with gold, and Devi means goddess. So I absolutely loved it when I received it, and I incorporated it into my life, and that's how I go by now. And honestly, I even find it weird when people call me Maria. Like, my legal name still is Maria. So when I call the doctor or the dentist and I have to make an appointment and I say that name, it feels really weird. But yeah, that's part of that's a little part of my story, and my transformation, and my letting go of conditioning, and my letting go of things that didn't represent me. And as crazy and maybe even as silly as it may sound to some, not being able to identify with your name, it's a huge deal. I think that we need to be able to identify with everything that we are. We need to be true to who we are. And if there is anything in your life that is holding you back from being that authentic you, that authentic version of you, then you need to be able to do something about it. So,
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned your name and how you received it and what it means, like everybody that can't see her as I can see her right now, she's just glowing. She's lit up and the biggest smile on her face. And it just resonates through you that this is me. I'm Luna,
yeah.
and I'm all these things. I'm a goddess, and I'm a bride of Krishna, right?
Yeah, when I received it, I was like, bring it on. I
Yeah.
had no expectations. I didn't go there to receive a name or anything. So it just
Mhm.
happened, and I love that. That's the thing when you're on a spiritual journey, or when you're on a journey of self discovery, that's how everything unfolds. It always ends up being on your favor, and there's always a teaching behind it. And the more you surrender to it, the more you will be surprised with the amazing capacity that the universe has to provide for us. So that's why it was so
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing about travel. I try to travel as much as possible because not being on a schedule and not having to do and being in the present moment and allowing the day to unfold as it's going to unfold. Like every minute is a gift. And that's how we can actually live our own lives
Hmm.
or learn to. But and especially spiritual places like India, that's one place I've never been. And I know you go there twice a year, right? Twice a
Hmm.
year, and you've been there, and you've taken some work there as well. You've done some retreats there. So how is that traveling there? I heard it's such a transformational place. I mean, obviously you got your new name there, and you did a 10-day meditation there as well. Wasn't your first silent meditation there?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. That was actually a big, big, big part of my transformation. It was my first Vipassana, that's what it's called. And I'm going to start with that because Vipassana is something that can be done anywhere in the world. Like most countries have access to it. It is completely free, it's donation based, and it is one of the most transformational things I've ever experienced in my life. So it's something that I highly recommend everyone to try at least once. And it's almost like a drug in the sense that it's so like the powers that you receive from it are so incredible that you almost become like addicted to it in a good way, you know, like I used to try to do it once every year, but now with the pandemic and all that, like the centers have been closed, but I've done two, and I really hope I can do another one when things go back to the new normal or whatever that is. But yeah, my first trip to India was when I actually used to work in the corporate world, and I did marketing and advertising for a very long time in different places, but mostly here in LA. And I used to work for really big companies, and I had a pretty successful job that I'm very grateful for. But at the same time, I was very stressed and I had a lot of anxiety, and I was working a lot and just putting myself, you know, last in my list of priorities. And at some point, I found myself having an extreme level of anxiety and stress to the point that you know, I had a physical checkup, and they discovered I had a really intense back then. It was called Graves' disease. It's a type of thyroid disease. And that's when I kind of hit rock bottom and thought, you know, I need to do something about that. And so I have been meditating here, and I had taken courses of like TM, transcendental meditation, and things like that. But that's when I decided, you know, I think I need to leave. Like this is not what I need to do. So I quit that job, and one of my dreams was to go to India, or actually not even India so much. My dream was to go to the Himalayas. I felt that the mountains, the Himalayas, were calling me, and I really wanted to go there. And so I started doing research around different countries in the Himalayas, Nepal, Bhutan, India. And a girl that I know that had been to India, she told me about a center in the Himalayas, in the Indian side, where they did Vipassana. Because that was the second thing I wanted to do. I wanted to go to India, I wanted to do a Vipassana, and I wanted to be able to go home to Chile for at least a month and just be there. Because ever since I'd been working here, you know, I would never get that much time to go and be at home with my family and all that. So I really wanted to do that. So I ended up doing all those three things. I found that center that was in the Himalayas in this place called Dharamshala, which is a town where Dalai Lama lives. So it's a very spiritual Buddhist town in the Himalayas of India. And that's when I did my first Vipassana. It absolutely changed my life. And India itself just changed my life in so many ways that I kind of became addicted to that as well. And as much as I believe and I know that you build the temple in your heart, and it's not like you have to go, you know, to the other side of the world to find yourself. At the end, you know, you find yourself wherever you have to be in the moment. But India has really helped me, and I kind of feel like I was from there in the past, you know. And I love the devotion. That's what I love the most about them, and I feel that it's such a different culture. I've been to other places in Asia, and it's very different from the Western culture, but India to me is the most different, and the way that they have structured their society, um, you know, there's so many things that are different, and I feel that a lot of people don't understand it. I remember being told before the first time I went, I was told, you either love it or hate it. And so now that I've been there so many times, I feel that it's true. You know, I feel that people who hate it
are people who don't understand it. So if you ever go to India, you can't go with the expectations that you would have for any other trip, because this is different. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna have to face things that you don't normally face in your life, and you're gonna have to deal with a lot of things that are a part of their system that are totally unknown to us here in the US. So I think that once you learn to see beyond those things, once to learn to see beyond their chaos, because it is pretty chaotic to us, once you do that, that's when you really fall in love with it and you understand it and you realize that nothing really matters. Like everything that we have been told to put our focus on here doesn't really matter, like the way we dress or the brands that we wear or the like all those things that are so materialistic at the end. And India is so the opposite of that. It's all about devotion and hospitality and taking care for each other, and yeah, their culture is so beautiful, and people in general treat you so well, and it's very welcoming. So I highly recommend you and anyone who feels called to go, because I think that's what India is, a calling. So yeah, I think that that's when you have to go, when you feel that calling in your heart.
Mm. And you listen to it. Yeah, I heard that
Yeah.
she will, you get lost in her and she will
Hmm.
show you. Correct. But it's definitely on the bucket list. Definitely it's something I need to do. India really played a part in your awakening. And what was it like in, you said the corporate world, like it just wasn't with your heart and you heard a nudge, you heard a calling to go. What was the moment that you really were like, that's it, I've got to leave this corporate world and do something else? You were pretty successful in at marketing and advertising, right?
Yeah. It's funny because I don't know necessarily like what was the exact moment, but I do know that when I was diagnosed with Graves' disease and my hormone levels were like up to the roof, I did know then that I needed to do like take action and do some changes in my life. So that's when I started considering leaving the corporate world. But one thing that was really crazy is that I did leave that job. I went to India. I did all that. I was traveling for like 3 months total. And then when I came back here, I didn't want to go back to the corporate world. But interesting enough, I got two job offers for freelance jobs in the two companies that I always wanted to work at here in LA. They were like my dream companies. So I was like, what do I do? Like this is a freelance gig. Maybe I take it and I'll do it for a couple months, or maybe I should figure something else. But I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do at that time. So I ended up taking one of the jobs, and that freelance job became a full-time job. And so there I was in the corporate world again without even knowing that that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I'm grateful for that experience. I'm really grateful that I was finally able to work in that dream company and to achieve that dream, because I feel that I really was able to close that chapter of my life, and I don't feel like I missed anything, or like there was anything that I didn't do or that I could have done more. Like I feel 100% fulfilled with that. And then I started doing sound healing, and sound healing became like my side hustle. And so I would do it after work, and that's when I started realizing that work didn't even matter to me. Like I was totally out. And if my boss from then heard me say this now, they wouldn't be happy. But I just didn't feel like I would go to work just because I felt like I needed to be there, and because I was getting paid and getting benefits or whatever. But the reality was that my heart and my mind and my spirit and everything else was in my practice, and my practice kept growing and growing, and I kept also meeting wonderful beings, and I would be sent amazing experiences into my life and all that. So that's when I decided I needed to leave. But I wasn't brave enough, I guess, because it's hard to make that leap. It's a leap of faith, really, to leave the corporate world and all the comfort that that brings, you know. And especially for me being Latina, you know, or being a foreigner, like I came to this country looking for better opportunities and I finally found them after so many years. So now Spirit was telling me that I needed to leave, and I was like, wait a minute, like, are you sure, you know? You know, the universe always takes care of it. So I think I found myself kind of making up excuses for me to stay. And I would be like, no, well, I have a surgery coming up, so I'm going to wait until after the surgery because I want the insurance benefits and all, you know, all those things. And funny enough, the day of the surgery that I was waiting for so that I could get insurance and all that, we lost a really big client. So there was a really big round of layoffs at my company. They let go of, I think, like 40 people or something, and I was one of them.
Oh, wow. See the proverbial 2x4. If you
Yeah.
don't do it, something's going to cause you to.
Yeah, and it was totally unexpected, and I went into a deep state of fear at first. I was like, "Oh my God, like I know that I've been asking for this, but at the same time I wasn't ready for it to happen now, you know? Like I was going to do it. I was planning on quitting my job 3 weeks after the surgery, basically. I wanted to have the surgery and then go back and then, you know. So in my mind, I was going to have 3 weeks while I was in recovery to set up a plan that I could work with now that I wasn't going to have a job. And none of that happened. I lost my job right away. And people were telling me, you know, like, this is the best thing that could have ever happened to you. Now you get severance and now you get this and you were going to quit anyways. But I was still feeling so scared and I didn't know what was my next step. So I went into a panic mode for a couple days. And then I remember I was like, no, you know, like I think you guys are right. This is the best thing that could have happened to me, and thank you, universe, for making it happen. And now I'm so ready to take my next step, even though I don't even know what that is, you know. And that was kind of like the vibration that I dropped in, and that's where I started moving from and towards just being in surrender. And that's basically what I do now. I still live from that place, just trust and surrender.
Because that's really all you can do. Because if you have everything planned out, where's there room for magic and miracles? Where's there room for something new to come into your life? Just like you said, everything lined up. You had synchronicity, you were meeting people, like things line up for you when you really are able to let go and trust and surrender.
Yes.
So now, one of your biggest modalities, let's just go into that really quick for those people that don't know what sound healing is or what sound baths are, and some of the instruments and what it can do for somebody. I know it can lower stress and anxiety, and like the vibration gets into your body and helps align it from a cellular level. If you could just go into that a little bit. So people that don't know what it is can get an idea and actually go and seek it out, because it's absolutely one of the most amazing things that you can do for yourself.
Yes, thank you for asking that. So, sound healing is a healing modality that has existed for centuries among different cultures, from the Native Americans to cultures in Tibet and the Himalayas and different cultures around the world. It's been used with different tools and in different ways, but it has existed for a very long time. And the concept of sound bath is something that started here in the West not too long ago. And it's basically like this acoustic experience where people come into a room and lay down and receive the healing sounds and vibrations of all these instruments. But sound healing itself is a lot more than just a sound bath. It's a modality where you can literally tune your energetic field using different things like tuning forks, or you can heal different things from the body, like actual physical pain, like back pain or headaches, or even tumors have been proven to be dissolved through vibrations. So it really varies, and there is a lot. It's like there's like infinite ways to work with sound and vibration. But what I do, I have an array of instruments, as you've seen, and that includes Tibetan singing bowls, crystal singing bowls, a moon gong, drums, chimes, etc., etc. And I have kind of created my own sound journey based on the teachings that I've had myself from I mean, that I've, I've learned from shamans, I've learned from Indian, like I've taken courses in India, I've learned from people here in LA, and ultimately I just follow my own intuition. So I've come up with my own thing, and I combine different instruments and play according to what I'm intuit what I play intuitively and according to what I'm feeling during the session. But some of the benefits include things like you mentioned, like it helps reduce anxiety. It works on a cellular level. Like you said, sound is a type of medicine that can go where no other medicine can. It literally penetrates every fiber, like every cell in your body. So my one of my teachers in India would always say that it's really important to have at least three sessions. And the way she describes it is, when we have a blockage in our body, like say fear becomes an actual physical sensation. It's like, when you're scared and you get this like feeling of tightness in your stomach, or when you're anxious and you feel this thing in your chest or a ball in your throat, or etc. So those are actual emotions that result in a physical sensation. So that sensation becomes a blockage that is preventing the energy to flow freely. And with sound healing, the vibration and the sound, they both penetrate this blockage. So my teacher would say you need at least three sessions, because in the first session it will kind of crush with the blockage and identify what the blockage is. In the second session, it will start kind of to help dissolve the blockage, and then in the third session, once the blockage is fully dissolved, that's when the sound can flow freely within your body. So some people even feel a little uncomfortable during their first time. A lot of people who haven't done any sort of energy work and they come into a session with a lot of blockages or tension or stress or negative energy in general, those people usually feel a little uncomfortable during the first session, so that they come back for a second one and it's a totally different experience. But yeah, I think that explains a little bit of what it does, but it also really helps with sleeping problems. Like a lot of people have reported to have such a great sleep after a sound bath. It helps even there. It depends on the instrument that you work with as well, but for example, tuning forks can even help you on a skin level, like for people who are aging. Like if you work with tuning forks on your skin, like it literally helps rejuvenate your cells, your skin. So there are different benefits, but it's all on a mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual level. So it's really profound. Yeah.
Mhm. I want to get one of those forks. I just turned 50, so I'm
Really? Oh my
going to
God, you
get a
look
fork.
like 10 years younger at least.
Thank you. And one of the cool things is from those instruments, there's the singing bowls. They're made out of quartz,
The ones
correct? Or
that,
what
yeah,
are
the
they
ones
made
that
out
I
of?
have are made of course, but there are different kinds. Yeah.
What's so cool about those is they're tuned to specific frequencies. Each different bowls are tuned to a specific frequency, and they have a way of being chakra energy center aligned, so it can help align your chakras and your energy centers. And also there's different frequencies that can be used depending on what hurts, like liberating guilt and fear, transforming transformations and miracles, awakening intuition. So there's so many different things that can be tuned into to work in the body,
Yeah,
right?
that's correct. And it depends on each person. I feel that each sound therapists have different ways of working with frequencies. My bowls are tuned to the frequency of 432 hertz, which is a frequency that it's a little lower than the standard frequency for musical instruments. So basically, any musical instrument, a guitar, a piano, or any instrument that you would buy at a normal store, at a regular music store, those are all tuned to 440 hertz. So the 432 frequency, it's known to be the divine frequency. It is known to be the frequency that the earth and the universe are tuned to. And so that's why a lot of healers like to work with that, because it's meant to be more healing and more relaxing than a standard frequency of 440. But there are basically every emotion, and every emotion has a frequency itself. Like there are emotions that have higher frequencies, like love, And then there are emotions that have lower frequencies, like shame. Shame is the emotion with the lowest frequency, for example. And so it really depends on what you're working with and what the person needs as well.
What would you suggest as far as we have a lot of women that are really looking to return to their divine feminine nature, and the moon has a lot to do with divine feminine energy and feminine energy, and a lot of these different sounds. What would you suggest to some of these women using some of these, maybe the sound meditation, the moon? What is something you can give to them right now that they can start implementing to get more in touch with their divinity, their feminine goddess
Mm.
nature?
I love this. So there are actually quite a few things that come to mind when I hear you say that. The first thing is because we already talked about it. India to me was what helped me find my the divine goddess or the divine feminine within me. It helped me connect with my Kundalini energy, with my sacral chakra, and if you look at if you look back at my story based on what I was sharing with you, I was in the corporate world and I was in a very masculine type of energy, doing, like competition and ego and all that. So that's the masculine energy. The feminine energy is more nurturing, more we hold space, we nourish, we nurture, we guide, we love. I wasn't necessarily in that energy, and India was what helped me start becoming aware of that and connecting with it. And I think I felt that rising of the Kundalini for the very first time, and that's when I was like, wow, like I do have a goddess within me. I just didn't even know. And I started waking that goddess up because we all have it. It's within all of us. She might be dormant in some cases, but we all have a goddess within. So that's one thing. I mean, I'm not saying go to India, but I think that become aware of how much of how much masculine energy are you bringing into your life, because everyone, both men and women, have both masculine and positive and feminine energy, but a lot of us tend to lean heavier towards one than the other. So I think that the first step is to look into the balance that you have between both. And then as far as the sound, I think that, like you were mentioning before, the singing bowls are connected to different chakras, and there is so actually two things. One is my moon gong that I play came to me because I was in that search of the feminine energy, and the moon gong is very feminine, and gongs come to you, like gongs it's not like an instrument that you would buy online without playing it before. Like I played maybe 10 or more different gongs before deciding which one I wanted to get first. And at that point of my life, I was feeling very intimidated by gongs like the sun gong or the Pluto gong, which are very masculine and very deep. I wanted something more light and feminine and nurturing and all that. And so the moon gong was what was calling me, and that's how I picked her, and she became my biggest ally. And that's why I use her. I call her because she almost has like her own personality. And then the singing, so using instruments like that or tools, like in the case of people who are not necessarily connected to sound, like finding tools that can bring that feminine energy back into your life, that's a really good way of connecting with it. And also reminding yourself that there are resources that you can use and that it's not just on you. Like, be okay with asking for help and with reaching out to other people and saying yes to caring for yourself and loving yourself and connecting with others and receiving from others and all that. And then there are the singing bowls that, like I was saying, they're connected to different chakras, and one of them is specifically connected with the sacral chakra. And the sacral chakra, even though both men and women have it, of course, a lot of the emotions that are not necessarily dealt with ended up being stored in the sacral chakra, which is located right below our navel. For most women, for most women it is located in the area of the womb, or for all women I should say. And so that ends up creating a lot of problems when we don't let go of those emotions. Then we start developing issues, problems in that area. And for a woman, that is the most sacred area of our body, our womb, you know. And so connecting with your sacral chakra, for me, it's key for anyone who wants to awaken that goddess within, connecting with that part of the body. And for me, I have endometriosis, which is a disease that lives in the uterus, mainly. And that disease is what gave me the ability to develop a really profound connection with that part of my body. So I'm really connected to my moon cycle, I'm really connected to my womb, to my uterus, and I'm really aware of what that is. I find sacredness in all of it. So I think that that's also another important thing to consider for women who are still mooning or in their period. I think that that's a really important door to open and explore, because a lot of us continue to do what we were told when we first got our period, when we were 12 or 15 or whatever. And have we even ever wondered, like, why do we wear tampons or pads, or things like that? I think that it's about questioning and challenging the relationship that you have with your moon cycle and with your womb in many aspects. And I feel that that's like a whole new podcast that we could talk about for like 3 hours, but it's a part of my mission too, to help women connect with that, because I feel that for so many years I wasn't even aware of it, because I never questioned it. I would just do what people told me to do, the media or my mom when I first started mooning and things like that. And I used to not like it, like a lot of women hate when they get their period. It's such a beautiful thing to be able to shed that blood and offer it back to the earth, even if you feel good about doing rituals like that. And it's nothing but another reminder for us women that we are creators. We are here to create. We can create life. We can bring life into this world, and that is such a beautiful honor. So what else can connect you more to your feminine goddess than the fact that you are the only species among humans that can create life? And so that connection starts right there in your womb, I think.
Those are just beautiful. Those are great suggestions. And like you were saying, you're passionate about helping women to reconnect with that part of the moon cycle and the menstruation cycle. And back in the day, it reconnects us to our ancient past, when we were revered and worshipped, and we were held high in society because we were givers of life. We gave birth. We were sages. We were wise women. We'd gather together in our red tents, and we'd have ceremony, almost like the shamans today in their sweat lodges and everything. So it's returning back to something that is so inherent in running through our DNA, and becoming conscious of that again, and reconnecting back to that ancient past. So I think that's something like returning back to our divinity as feminine women is really important to do, because some kids think it's shameful. You grow up, like when I was growing up, girls were embarrassed about it and weren't really educated that well on it. So I think that's such a great thing to bring to the women. And that leads as well, like you're passionate about that, but what's next for you? And what else are you really passionate about bringing to the world, to your classes, to your workshops, to women, to men? And what's next for you?
Well, that's an interesting question, because given the current situation, things have changed for me so quickly and unexpectedly that I love it and I welcome it. But I'm in a moment of my life where I'm not planning anything. I'm literally just living the moment and living day by day, because one of the things that I think the pandemic has taught us, I'm actually calling it the great pause. I don't call it the pandemic, because I think that that's what it is, a pause for all of us to go within and look inward and stop and take a pause from all the crazy life that most of us live every day, doing. And so with this great pause, I think that one of the biggest things that I've personally I have started incorporating into my life in an even deeper level of consciousness is the fact of being present, the ability to just be present and not necessarily worry about the future. So that's how I go right now, with the flow and just staying in the present moment. I did have things that were scheduled, like you mentioned, my retreat to India, that was scheduled to happen in April and we had to cancel it, of course. I had another retreat for Latina women here that was also canceled, and I don't know when we're going to be able to do it. I really hope that we can do it soon because it's a beautiful thing. So I want to continue to work towards building community. I feel and I know that it has never felt, to me at least, like a better time to connect with everyone. I think that for all of us that are alive on this earth right now, there has never been there has never been a time in our lifetime more important for us to connect all together, to come together. And we're being gathered, we're being connected by beautiful forces out there, I feel. And so I want to continue to focus on building community, and right now I'm doing that online. I'm offering a lot of virtual sessions and things, and I have been able to build a really beautiful community online, and it's been a really changing, like transformative and a nice experience for me and for everyone who is a part of it. So I want to continue to be able to grow that, because one thing that I do know, even though I don't know when or how or etc. because of the situation, but one thing that I do know is that I love to travel like you, and I love to go to India. I love to be able to go to Chile and be with my family and all that. So being able to do this online has given me that ability as well, not only to travel and be able to do things remotely, but also to be able to reach communities from different countries that I'm not able to necessarily work with when I'm doing things in person. So I think that that's where I would like to grow towards. Yeah.
Mhm. So the gifts in this was the great pause for you and to slow down and be present, and now you're reaching such a bigger community online, and it's going to, your canceled workshops will just be rescheduled, but everything works out how it's supposed to. It'll be the right time for those people when it is reintroduced to be in that class. And yeah, there's so many gifts and all this craziness that's going out there. Like there's like light being workers being called together to gather, and community is so important right now, whether it's online or in person, which will
Mhm.
thankfully be going back to hopefully very soon. So, lastly, I would love to hear, I ask everyone this, what does it mean to you to live from an awakened heart?
Hmm. What does it mean to me? I think that, I mean, the first word that comes to mind is authenticity, and maybe I'll leave you with the first with the same thing that I opened it up, which is I'm an anti-conditioning person, and I believe that living your life authentically is really the answer to what a lot of people seek during their lives. A lot of people are constantly searching, 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 and ultimately the answer lies within your heart. And so when you are living your life from your heart, you're basically living your life authentically from the best version of yourself. And that to me is really inspiring, not just for your own self, but also for everyone who is around you, and yeah, I think authenticity, and I think that from authenticity is where everything else falls, like, your purpose, your dreams, and everything like else like that. I think authenticity, or being in your heart, gives you the courage to know, gives you the courage, and it also gives you a deep knowing of how to take your next step. Yeah.
Mm. So it's an unlearning. You have to like you said in the beginning, you have to like it's a shedding, we're brought here, we're shedding, we're unlearning all this conditioning to return to a place of authenticity that's within ourselves, a knowing and a sense. It's intuition, it's a knowing, it's a returning to self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an awakened heart. I think that's beautiful. I couldn't have said it better myself.
No, thank you. Yeah, I think I love the word unlearn actually, because that's exactly we were taught so many things, but ultimately, like I said, the answers are within yourself. And so now that you have all the experience and all the teachings that have come from different, your parents, your school, and the society in general, now what is your opinion? What do you feel about whatever it is that you're going through? How do you want to deal with this? What do you feel about wearing a mask or not? Or what do you feel about, going out and protesting or whatever? Like, stop doing things based on what other people tell you or not tell you, and based on what religion or your parents or school taught you at some point. Those teachings came into our life for a very deep and greater purpose, I'm sure. But now it is time to gather the courage to be able to unlearn a lot of that. So that's beautiful. Thank you for saying
Yes. Yeah.
that word.
And listening to yourself and learning what is true for you. It's absolutely correct.
Yes.
Well, Luna, thank you so much. It's been so wonderful having you on. I'm going to put all the ways that people can contact you, your programs, your website, and everything in the show notes. And I'm so excited for everybody to listen to this one.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Yeah, I invite everybody to join me online, wherever you are in the world, or if you are in LA, feel free to join me here in these in-person sessions that I've been doing at the beach. And yeah, I'm here for you guys for anything, anytime.
Thank you again. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Much love.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Awakened Heart Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, head on over to your favorite podcast app to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, you can reach me at theawakenedheartpodcast.com.